right now.
We're proud. We're hopeful. Go, Anthony.
You guys in the media make me crazy. You're in there. You're in there. You're all in on it. You're 100%. You are all Anthony Richardson all the time. You are all now Quentin Nelson. You are all Shane Steichen because he makes you turn your foot this way, not that way.
Yeah.
You're all Colts.
It's May. This is what we do. In September, we can crap all over them when they start losing games.
Yeah.
In May, there's hope. I like Quentin Nelson. Quentin Nelson's no-nonsense guy. Yeah. He's all business. I like that. He's not trying to win everybody over. He's not walking into the media room thinking, oh, who can I align as a friend today? Who's my guy? He's exactly the opposite of that.
I agree. And my daughter's friend dates him, and he's a great guy.
Yeah.
So I'm all in. Look, I'm good, but you got to block somebody.
That'd be good.
Well, you got to continue to get better. And by the way, you know what one of the most frustrating things of my day is? So from 9 to 11, I look at a camera, and you know what I see?
What?
Me.
Yeah.
And so now I'm with you, and I'm looking, I'm like, man, we're the same age, and you look 1,000. I look like that old fat Elmer Fudd.
You look fantastic.
No, I look like garbage. I'm not happy. But
you know what?
Look,
over the next 10 years, I'm going to age into oblivion. I'm going to look like an old catcher's mitt, and you are going to look exactly like you look.
Yeah, what's the change? Just gained 45 freaking pounds. The hair's not going to change. I guess teeth will be there. They're all fake. All right, I'm watching, and I got to give him credit. I got to give Holder a little bit of credit here. I hate to say this, but there were some tapes, or whatever you want to call it now. I call it tapes, of Anthony Richardson kind of moving around in the pocket, looking like he knew what he was doing.
Yeah.
I kind of like that because I think on third down, he's going to be a real asset right now. I kind of thought, you know what, based on maybe there are highlight tapes, but this guy may know what he's doing more so than what we're giving him credit for.
You know what? He's a guy. It's been a long time since we've watched the Colts with a quarterback who could move.
Yeah.
And now you got one, and here's a guy 3rd and 6. If you keep people off him, even if guys are covered downfield, you're not throwing a bubble screen. You're just saying, hey, tuck it and go, and everybody's happy. I think it's going to be it's going to be more fun than this.
I want to find, you keep talking. I want to find this did you, on KentSterling.com,
yeah,
did you compare him to Andrew Luck?
They did.
Who did?
The people, who is it? Mock something. They compared the athletic scores, and it was Dante Culpepper, whose athletic score was closest, and then Cam Newton, and then Andrew Luck. So yes.
So
they did.
You made it look like it was you.
It's editorial license.
I looked at that, and on the Otter Creek, you must get a shout out because you were our first viewer. Right, he's gunning for nachos. He wants a little extra cheese on those nachos. You're like, can you? Hey, look, no, not just taco meat. Put a little sausage in those nachos too. All right, let me back up. Somebody just asked that question here. I think it was what athletic score is this? A mythical What athletic
score? It's
that
RAS score where they take into account like size, weight, 40 time. Okay. 10-yard split, all this stuff.
Okay.
And they graph it out, and his graph looks a lot like Andrew Luck's, according to this thing.
Does it include throwing the ball?
It does not.
It's just athletic ability.
Right.
Does it include, what was that test they called the C2 test or whatever that
S2.
S2. Yeah. Was that in there as well?
No. This is pure athleticism. I don't know whether Anthony Richardson is ever going to be like Andrew Luck. I mean, Andrew Luck's processor was pretty good, effective. I don't know whether Anthony Richardson's got that to him or not. We're going to find out. But physically, running, that kind of hand size, all that mumbo jumbo, they're similar.
One thing, you like the draft. I like the draft. I look, people say, well, you're on Ballard. I'm on Ballard because I don't trust and I don't believe until I see, and I still think he's more PR. But I must say, the draft to me when you kind of break it down, who knows? But there is athletic ability. Mm-hmm. And I have said, I don't need gritty third-team all-conference guy that, is fighting.
Used to be a wrestler.
Yeah, I don't need that. By the way, he signed again, Rocky Ya-Sin.
For $6 million?
Up
to $6 million.
It's unbelievable. That guy's made a career out of what?
We went into the wrong business.
Jeez, we should have been in the corner business.
To be slow, commit pass interference penalty after pass interference penalty, and make millions of dollars. Okay.
I only need 1 year at $6 million. I don't need 10. I had 1 year at $6 million, and my toes are.
Isn't that funny? Yeah. It seems like the more money people make, the more they want.
Yeah.
I don't understand. I got that too. You know, and $6 million's about it. Done.
1 year. I don't even. 1 year at $1 million. I'm pretty good. I did see this. Did you see this? And this is totally off topic, but still, the live world of golf is going to become the live world of soccer. They offered that guy Messi $400 million a year.
Yeah.
A year, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, the Saudis are crazy.
A year. 400.
Have you ever seen these cats? Have you ever seen the Saudis shop?
No.
I did, at Harrods in London.
Oh, that's...
just walking around Harrods. I don't know. I've heard of it. So I go in and I get lost because it's very catacomby. A lot of little
and it's like
rooms.
6 floors.
Right. And guys, they got the thing on, whatever. The red and white. I don't want to say the wrong thing and offend people.
People lose their mind.
It looks like they took it off a Pizza Hut table. And so I talked to one of the employees about these guys. And you got to follow them around and watch what they do. They buy everything, and we load it into trucks for them at the end of the night. There were like $300 Scrabble sets. I said, hey, $300 Scrabble set. I'll take me one of those. He goes, one? What's the matter with you? That guy just bought 40. He's putting them in all of his bedrooms. Like they got more money. You've been to London, and they don't have Buick dealerships.
No.
They're selling real cars, nothing against Buicks.
Yeah, I like Buicks. But
Saudis can't wait to spend money.
I $400 million. I mean, okay. Rocky Ya-Sin at $6 million is obscene. It's obscene.
You would. I know what you would do. You'd say $400 million. What do you want from me for $400 million?
I know.
I don't trust this shit at all.
I don't think I can deliver.
No.
I could not deliver $6 million worth of content to anybody. I'm telling you right now. I mean, think about what, and because that's a great way to look at it.
Yeah.
What do I got to do for this $400 million? Oh, you got to play soccer. Oh, hell, I can do that if I'm a soccer player.
Yeah, I play soccer for free. So what am I really doing for the 400? What value are you getting for that 400 million in this exchange? I wouldn't trust it. I couldn't do it.
I agree. I was looking today at the 10 highest paid guys. Messi's number 1, Ronaldo's number 2, like whatever. Roger Federer is in the top 10. Roger Federer made $90.7 million last year. Now, Roger Federer made $0.7 million playing tennis.
Yeah.
He made the 90 off, and a lot of those guys is about 50-50. It's about, 45, but make 90 million is 45. 40. So Roger, and I did think of that. What is Roger Federer, what is he endorsing? I guess maybe it's in Europe. I guess we don't see it. I know he does Rolex. And then the other guy, that was Kevin Durant. Kevin Durant made like 50 million off of endorsements. And I said to myself, if Kevin Durant is endorsing this shirt, I'm buying your shirt. I don't give a shit what Kevin Durant is endorsing.
Yeah.
Seriously.
Right. No, I'm
going to tell you something interesting. This just happened. This is why you watch this live. This is fascinating. Alabama fired baseball coach, a guy named Bohannon. And if you followed this at all, what makes this interesting, Brad Bohannon violated the standards, duties, and responsibilities. In Ohio and other places, the Alabama baseball game against LSU was taken off the books. And all of a sudden, 3 days ago, this guy gets fired. He's the head coach. I tell you, and I've told them in Indianapolis for years, there's always a freaking backstory.
Yeah.
Here's your backstory, and then you got to go deeper into the backstory on who was this guy dealing with, who was he talking to. And by the way, Alabama's a shithole. Alabama got the wide receiver slapped the girl, the basketball players involved in murder, the assistant athletic director in charge of football just got a domestic abuse, and now they're firing the damn baseball coach for some gambling shit. God bless you, Alabama. It just means more in the SEC. It does. Come on.
How does Paul Feinbaum sleep at night?
I don't know. He doesn't have enough content. But anyway, back to...
I saw him. He did the IndyCar, like, gentlemen, start your engines. And he walked out there, like, all grumpy, no smile, nothing. Gentlemen, start your engines. And he marched off. I was like, well, this is...
Feinbaum?
Yeah.
Who's Feinbaum think he is?
I know.
He talks to a bunch of hillbillies in the South that yell at him and scream at him and go burn down trees or whatever the guy did. Man, roll tide, I guess.
Wow, that's interesting.
How about, all right, back to the Colts for just a second. All these draft choices, all right? Who starts?
Oh, golly. Well, they got to have one of the cornerbacks start.
Right.
You got to have either Brent or Rush, because if you don't, nobody is. You could, I could. They don't have another guy. The safety, I don't think they have any safeties who are really, like, they're all 5s on a scale of 1 to 10. So the new safety, who knows? Rodney Thomas started last year.
Julian Blackmon's back.
I think you got to have the slot guy from North Carolina. He's got to start.
Who is he? Right, I was going to say, who is he replacing in the slot?
Yeah, nobody really.
I mean,
they signed the Isaiah McKenzie guy, from Buffalo, but like he
40 catches, 400 yards.
Yeah,
that's not great. No, but Paris Campbell's gone. He was in the slot. But who?
I think the Ekiyor guy from Cathedral and Alabama. I think he could wind up starting in right guard. He was an undrafted free agent.
Was Mark Glowinski a bad guy to lose?
Well, they paid him too much with the Giants.
Right. But they paid him too much here.
Go.
They paid him too much here, I think.
Yeah.
I remember this, and Colts fans, you'll remember this. When Anthony Costanzo went out a few years ago, not when he retired, but he went out, he got hurt, and man, the whole line fell apart.
Yeah.
And, everybody talks about, you got to have a cohesive unit. And it's not always the star, the highest paid, is the Seinfeld, is the guy that brings everybody together.
Right.
Is the guy that everybody goes to his house to hang out at. Everybody's comfortable with him shooting the shit or going to dinner. And I wonder how important Glowinski is, because now you're sitting here with the same guys, right? You got Kelly, you got Quentin Nelson. I guess Rain Man would be different. And you got the other guy on the right side, Brendan Smith. How important was he? Like, I don't know, man, because that line stunk last year. That line was shit last year. But it can't have been
him. Like, you had no left tackle. Ryman had a lot of trouble kind of getting up to speed.
But Pryor was the guy that was a starter.
He was awful.
How do you even go into this
and
is
then
why...
that Davenport guy, a complete train wreck.
But this is why I don't listen to the media. I don't listen to anything other than when the Colts play, because I remember Ballard probably did it with you when you talked to him. So self-assured / cocky that frickin' Pryor was going to be just fine. What are you bothering me with this shit for?
Always.
And I don't know left tackle play. You don't know left tackle play, but we knew he was bad.
Yeah.
And we knew Davenport was bad.
It's a result-based business. If you're a turnstile, it's no good.
No.
If your guy is getting to the quarterback,
or if you're being pushed into the quarterback, or if they run it on your side and your guy that you're supposed to block makes the tackle, you ain't any good.
Yeah, if all you see from the guy is this, Yeah. If you see the back of the guy, that's no good.
But it's a broader point, Kent.
Yeah.
How can we trust this regime? Now, the regime changes because the coaching changes. But how can you trust that, they've made so many missteps in evaluation?
Yeah. Well, it's May.
It's May.
It's May. And in May, we have great optimism.
I don't. Because here's what happens in my life. And I know this happens in your life. May becomes August, becomes September in 10 freaking minutes.
Yeah.
might as well be August 1st without training camp because it's just run so fast. And next thing you know, we're going to listen to Ballard and everybody talk about how great. Like, I don't know if that Rain Man was good or if he was just better than what was.
He was better late in the season.
He was better than what I'm saying is, he was way better than prior and better than immediately. Yeah. So is he good enough, or is he just better, like being the most handsome guy at the Dawkins family reunion? Is that is that an honor, or is that just a thing?
The thing that I don't trust is that everybody's saying the same thing, and that's that we've got to become cohesive. Tony Sperano, I was talking to him, and he said, it's got to become a unit. You block as a unit. You block as one. It can't be that simple or everybody could do it. You get guys together for a barbecue. You drink some beers. Maybe you do some kind of nutty team building. You go out on the lake and you build little boats and see who floats the longest. I don't know.
What was it in Boy Scouts? Something derby, soapbox derby?
Yeah, soapbox derby. You got the little car. Here's this hunk of wood. I can't buy all of that. I like reading between the lines a little, and you don't really have to with Quentin Nelson.
Oh.
What he said about the new regime with Steichen and with Sperano is exactly what was missing with the other guys. Anytime a guy is asked to describe what's new, they always reveal to you what was lacking. And what was lacking was energy from Reich. And he said that, what's great in the room is Sperano has a sense of humor, which means that Chris Strasser had no sense of humor whatsoever. And that's interesting to me.
That is.
But energy works in May. Energy doesn't work in September and October and November and December. You've got to be tactically proficient more than you need to walk into a room and go, okay, you bastards, now we're going to, like Rick Venturi's always got the story. His speech was about Vikings burning the boats. You get to the opposite beach, you burn the boats because we're here and we're winning with what we got. Okay. That's great the first time everybody hears it. Second time, people are like, it's the Viking thing again. Third time, people are like, Jesus, God, you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, but that's where the great Tates Locke said, you got to be smarter than the players. You got to be smarter than the players. If you're not smarter than the players, then you can't. But to your point, I think that cohesion is great. Sense of humor is great. New regime is great. It's all fantastic. But again, it goes back to why were the Colts hiring Reich? Why were they keeping Reich? Why did they think this was going to work? What kind of decisions were made? And now maybe, let's just say it's in the past. This is the 5th head coach, 7th quarterback. Nobody gets to get 5 head coaches. You name me another general manager that gets 5 head coaches.
Right.
You cannot. So I guess we just say it's May and we trust. But I have a hard time with that because this always happens. And I want your opinion because you were probably there. So Kenny Moore speaks the other day. So Kenny Moore is a great guy. 2 years ago, he sat right across from me at Tyler Trent's golf outing, and there was a family there that he had kind of adopted that lost a child. It was a great story. It's fantastic. Last year, Kenny Moore decides, I'm signing a contract, but I'm pissed. I'm going to be at camp, but I'm not playing. All this bullshit. And I always say when you have a team that's crappy like this, you hear all these platitudes. Well, we're together, blah, blah, blah. And then the next year, you hear what's real.
Right.
Kenny Moore, well, I'm refreshed now. Well, you weren't refreshed last year?
What was the matter with you then?
Yeah, you were tired. Shaq Leonard last year said, well, the year before I lost my enthusiasm for playing. You always hear the next year.
Right.
What the bullshit really is. And that's why when people want to say, well, I'm too negative. No, I just know that it's wrong this year, and you're going to hear the reason next year. And I'm trying to tell you the reason this freaking year, if any of that makes sense.
That makes sense. You've been in a locker room. You know how the inner workings of a locker room is.
Yeah, you're always keeping it here.
Right.
And then when a new coach comes in or or you feel better about your team, then you not only talk about how good your team is now, but the things that went wrong last year. And that makes me crazy that we just simply go through the season. And I'm telling you I'm telling you right now, if you're still arguing with me about the Colts, you people, you can kiss my ass. Because I've been right about the Colts for frickin' 4 years about this regime. Anyway, go ahead.
I got to tell you, I got worn out by Kenny Moore last year. So I'm sitting there yesterday, and they have Quentin Nelson, and then they have Grover Stewart, who is the guy you were talking about with the defensive line. Everybody goes to Grover's house, and he cooks wings, and he's a wonderful host, and he keeps everybody together. I thought I can leave and get something else done or stay and listen to Kenny Moore. So I left. And I never do that. Like, I just couldn't have imagined that he was going to say something I wanted to hear based upon the way he behaved last year. So I left. I read what he said, but it's meaningless to me. So I don't know why he's here, to be honest. He doesn't fit the scheme, and they could have cut him with minimal cap problems.
Well,
so I just don't get
who
it.
They're replacing him with.
He's a slot corner.
But I'm saying you
get those guys out. They're everywhere. It's like replacing a right guard.
But isn't it coincidental, interesting, whatever? He got crappy or he got no good once he made Pro Bowl.
Yeah.
They made that big announcement, and then he was nonsense, garbage for the last whatever weeks of the season.
Hard Knocks, I think, lifted him to a level he couldn't sustain. And he thought, hey, look at me. This is my time to make money. And then, Colts were like, wait, we're going to go off schedule for you. Yeah. We're going to sign you to an extension 2 years before you're a free agent. We're not going to do the same thing with Jonathan Taylor and Michael Pittman. What are you, out of your mind? Yeah. So that kind of crap just wears me out. And so I thought, I'm packing my crap up and going home.
And you were right, because he gave you nonsense.
Right. I don't like nonsense.
Nonsense.
It wastes my time.
Waste your time.
I got other shit to do.
You are important. You are.
Well, I'm busy.
Yeah, all right. Like me, I can take a nap. What are we doing today? I'll take a nap and figure it out later.
Gonna go hit some balls.
Yeah.
Life's good.
I'm actually speaking. What am I speaking tonight? To the St. Luke's Men's Club. Like every Catholic coach in the city is going to be there. I'm very excited. Yeah, very.
Keep it clean.
I don't think so. There's going to be. Last time I spoke at a Catholic thing, I said, "Hey, the bishop's here. He's a busy mofo." He was at my high school. I've been invited back. All right, so Kenny Moore, we decide. All right. I want to go into the slot receiver, the kid Downs.
Yeah.
To me, you got to have, let me put it this way. It used to be a burner, a possession guy, and a tight end.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Now to me, it should be, my opinion, a burner, a slot receiver that's really good, that can separate, which this guy can, and a tight end. I don't need slow anywhere unless, you know what I mean?
You don't need that 4.7, 40 guy.
But I do need, for possession, a tight end.
Yeah.
And I love a slot guy that can separate, so I'm kind of enthused by this kid Downs. More I read about, we read last week off of this, or on Tuesday, off of this Our Lads, and they talked about his separation, and I read some other report, I forget who it was from, maybe it was from Phil Steele, that was talking about he can really separate, and what do you got to do as a slot guy? You got to separate.
Right.
And he can.
He's really quick.
Yeah, if he can do that and catch the football and not get, pounded into submission because he's really, really little.
Make one guy miss.
Yeah, and next thing you know, you got something here.
Yep.
So that like I said, I'm enthused about speed and athletic ability, and that apparently is what this draft class has.
Always. And I keep going back always to that 2019 draft where they took Rocky Sean instead of Deebo Samuel. They took Ben Banigou instead of A.J. Brown. And they took Paris Campbell. That's not bad. That's justifiable. But you had Terry McLaurin and you had DK Metcalf behind him. What are you doing? I mean, that's malpractice. So, but I align with you completely. The more speed, the more better. Right? No speed, no better.
And don't throw at Kent or throw at me, well, what would you have done? We're not paid to do it. These guys are paid to know that Terry McLaurin is going to be better than Paris Campbell. These guys are paid to know that DK Metcalf or A.J. Brown could be a superstar, and we're not worried about whether Ben Banigou is still on the board or Bobby Okereke. I can't believe we got both. Like, God, look at how good we are. Shut up. You're paid to do those things. And I got to tell you, when you talk to these guys, they're paid well. Like, they got houses. I got a house. And every month I tell Lee when we pay the mortgage, hey, we can live here another month. These dudes got houses over here. I mean, Grigson would call me from or text me from somewhere in Maine. I got a house. I'm selling my place over here. Like, these dudes are paid a lot of money to know Ben Banigou ain't the guy or Quincy Wilson ain't the guy.
Yeah.
A lot of freaking money.
Yeah.
Oh, I hear that bullshit about, hey, you and I should know who you take. Stop it.
Well, here's what I think that they do, and I think here's where you and I would be better at it in this limited way.
Yeah.
I think they hyper-examine everything. They get way too deep in the woods. Give me fast. Who's the fastest guy? Who projects to be fast playing the game? Who looked fast playing when they played in college? I want fast guys. I think you win with speed always. And that it seems to be, until maybe last year and this year a little bit, like Downs is a guy, his straight line speed isn't great, but he's really like fidgety. He can change direction. That's good athleticism. And I think that Ballard has been a guy who valued things ahead of that. And that's just wrong.
I agree.
Like,
if the tape is good enough, and you can play football, and you're the fastest guy, and you're not an idiot, because idiots don't work anymore, really. I mean, very few work anymore. Used to be, but not anymore. There's no question. Look, if I'm going to bet on potential, let me ask you, okay, so this brings us up. What is potential in football?
I don't know what you mean. As an individual?
Yeah, as an individual. So Ogletree is potentially good. The tight end kid that got hurt.
Right.
What does that mean in football? You run what you run. You catch what you catch, I guess. Your radius is what it is. Is potential in football physical, or is it mental?
I think it's both.
But then I'm going to ask you to define the physical.
But you need the mental to
define
get to
the physical
that level.
for me.
The physical to me is speed.
Right.
The physical to me is like feet. I want a guy, I want an offensive lineman who can move his feet really well. I want an athletic guy there. I don't need him to be able to run like a 4.5 40. I need him to be able to slide and use his hands and get leverage. I don't know. The potential to me is a guy who's done it. You know, if you've got...
but that's the opposite of potential.
But
potential means you're waiting to see if you're going to do it.
But a guy who's done it at the college level, and then because of the way he played in college, he's got the potential to play at the pro level.
Would in NFL football, and I'll ask you guys, would where they played in college matter?
No.
That's interesting.
And it doesn't to them.
I don't think it does.
The Colts. I think you can get a guy like Grover Stewart can play. He played at Albany State in southwest Georgia. I got family in Albany. And he thought that he was going to go to work at some kind of plant. And then he got drafted. He was like, I'll put that on hold. I'll go see what the Colts want. You know, you can find guys. I think they took a guy this year out of Wagner.
Yeah.
I didn't know they had a football program.
I didn't either.
So I think you can find guys.
The reason I ask is because there was a guy here named Josh Chapman.
Yeah.
He was a big, fat, middle nose guard. And Josh Chapman played at Alabama and got hurt. He had an ACL. And he played with a torn ACL. And I remember, and he played well.
Yeah.
He did not get surgery until after the year. And I remember thinking to myself, this guy is going to be really good. He played at Alabama, played really well at Alabama, had a torn ACL, wants to play, didn't sit out. For God's sake, he came in and he played. How good is this guy going to be because of the talent level to get him to Alabama? Started at Alabama 3 or 4 years, never did shit here. Nothing. Nothing. So I've always kind of wondered, like, man, when you look at the NFL and you look at the individual, what in the hell is potential?
And what you've got to do, too, is you've got to resist the temptation of falling in love.
Oh, you can't fall in love. No, two things. You can't. Oh, you said them both. Can't fall in love, and you can't overthink it.
Yeah.
Like one of the things in basketball recruiting, if a kid lives in your hometown, and I had this, I'm like, there's a kid, Josh Almanson, and I mean, because I saw him so much and knew his parents, I made up things that didn't even matter. And finally, I'm watching him play here in Indy at the Nike camp. I'm like, what am I doing? Just give him a freaking scholarship and be done with it. What, are you, an idiot? You know what I mean? Because you can know too much about.
Yeah, and you're gonna find something wrong eventually.
God. And then there, somebody else from like Houston. You're like, oh, he's great.
Yeah,
and you know 1/100th of what that guy is.
There was a guy at the combine, Fletcher Cox, in 2000.
The Fletcher Cox, who was really good.
13. Yeah.
Oh.
And so we're talking to him, and I'm with a guy named Tony Softly, who used to be the director of player, whatever.
Yeah.
With the Rams.
Yeah.
And he was a high school sprinter, set a record as like a member of a relay team. And I was listening to this guy talk, and I was just enamored of this guy. I thought, my God, anybody who doesn't take this guy is a complete idiot. And Softly saw the look on my face because he worked for us then. He was no longer with the Rams. And he's like, you can't do it. Don't do it. You can't fall in love with these guys. You've got to process who and what they are. What they are is as important as who, so don't do it. But I was right. I loved him.
Yeah.
And he's been great. He was a Pro Bowler.
Yeah.
Still playing.
It begs the question, what does don't fall in love mean? Don't overlook flaws because you think this is your guy. People do that in relationships.
Yeah. Yeah.
They know that this ain't right for them, but we're going to do it anyway. Hey,
see how it goes.
Yeah, we'll figure it out. We'll figure it out later, and it'll cost me half my stuff. Seriously. But I get what you're saying. Do you think, here's the question then about Richardson. Easy. You need a quarterback. You're not taking Levis for whatever the reason. There's a report that Steichen played golf with him and didn't like him. I don't know. Whatever the reason, you're not taking Levis.
He did not fall in love with him.
No.
Right.
So there's three things in play with Richardson. One, he's good enough, and he was going to be the guy, as Jimmy Irsay said, we may have took overall. Okay, fine. Two, you fell in love with the only one you could fall in love with. Like the first girl you have sex with, I love you, you're the best, I can't. Or three, you looked around and you're like, public pressure, there's no one around else we can really take. We need a quarterback.
Yeah.
So might as well take him. So you got might as well, fall in love, or actual is basically the three things.
I like the way that Steichen framed the quarterback position. He's like, you're going to have to spend a lot of time with this guy. So he talked about selecting a quarterback like you select a wife. You've got to have a person you want to spend all this time with. You got to find a person you like, or you're going to learn to hate your job. So
that's a great point. Man,
hopefully,
that's a good point.
Richardson is that guy. And Levis clearly was not. Did you see Levis when he got drafted, like yelling at the TV and like flexing and I was like, what? You stop doing everying. Whatever you're doing is completely wrong.
Costanza this.
Yeah, exactly.
The opposite. I did see that. Yeah, he went like,
I hate it. Every time he does anything, I think, oh no, just be a human being.
If you have advice from Dan. If you have an up and coming quarterback, tape Will Levis and do the opposite. Tape whatever Will Levis is doing.
Did you hear what Tannehill said?
No.
Tannehill said, yeah, I got deja vu. Do you bet against Tannehill being the week one starter in Tennessee?
Do I bet against it? Absolutely not.
Tannehill's
starting?
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, here's a better question. Every town, like if Minshew starts here, what's going to happen? Every interception is going to be, we want Rich.
Yeah.
Do you think Levis is that guy in Tennessee? Do you think like when Tannehill...
Would it be the opposite? Where they're going to boo Levis's ass?
That's what I'm saying.
Wow.
I mean, would it be like Tannehill throws, I don't know, an intercept, or let's say he throws 2 touchdowns and everybody starts screaming at Levis, we shouldn't have drafted you, we wasted, or I don't know. I don't see it being what it will be here if Minshew starts.
We've compared him to Wentz a couple of times on other shows, and that's where I think it's appropriate, is that like Wentz threw seven picks, 27 touchdown passes. I can't in my head envision any of the 27 touchdowns, but I know exactly what happened in every one of the interceptions, and they still piss me off. And that's personal. That's not about the quarterback. It's personal.
But Wentz isn't. Maybe I'm jaded because Wentz goes to the same church Lee and I go to, and we saw him one time when he first got here. We were at a dinner. I forget what place we were, and he was over there and not bothering anybody, just having a great conversation with his wife. And you know, he spoke at Traders Point. It was great, and I actually saw him there a couple weeks ago, and isn't a me, just goes, gets his kids out of because I always go to the bathroom in the one area over there. I guess that's where the kids are. But he doesn't. Wentz is an easily dislikable guy for some reason, and Levis is just unlikable. I don't know how to put it. How am I trying to put it?
Yeah, there's nothing good there. Like, I've never had a moment where I was like, oh, that looks like a nice guy. I'd like to get to know that guy. I would not with Will Levis. I would stay away from his locker.
I'd hang around his sister and his wife. He's
got to have something going for him.
Yeah, I'm just sitting there going like, man, like I remember, I'll never forget this. Anthony Costanzo gets drafted. And Polian drafted him, and I was working for you. And there was a great picture of Costanzo in the paper and his mother, all these beautiful women, all these beautiful dark-haired women. The whole family's Italian, and I had him on. And I go, man, I tell you what, you got it all figured out. You know, you got beautiful women around. And he goes, oh, don't I? He goes, my mother is so, and he was just the nicest, most, likable guy.
You know what I loved about him? And this goes back to the way I evaluate people, which I think I would serve a very limited function within an NFL front office. There was a fundraiser where they had celebrity servers. And I don't know, they needed people, so I showed up. And it was me and Jersey Johnny from 1070 The Fan. And there were a bunch of Colts in there. And Costanzo was one of the guys, and I know that his family in Lake Zurich owned an Italian restaurant. He worked really hard. He was bussing tables. Other guys, kicking back with their against the wall. They're texting people or they're posting stuff on social media. He worked. Curtis Painter worked his balls off. He couldn't wait to fill people's water glasses. He was like trying to learn how to be a server. Some of the guys, they wanted work. Some of the guys, they could give a shit less, and they didn't do it. And in almost every case, the guys who wanted to work, they were awesome with the Colts and played really well. And the guys who were kicking back and doing nothing, they washed out.
I believe that.
I always pay attention to that crap.
Yeah, I think you got to. And I think, I think we talked about it whenever we did our last show. You got to pay attention to that stuff with a quarterback.
Yeah,
you got to. And, that draft day show where nobody showed up at the Wisconsin quarterback, I mean, it's maybe hokey and it may not, but the premise is accurate.
Yeah.
Very, very accurate.
I'll give you another one. In training camp, you better be, obviously, we're going to know who Anthony Richardson is.
Right.
But if you took away the numbers and you show up and you start watching, you better be able to figure out who the hell the quarterback is, the starting quarterback. Yeah. Because if you can't, you don't have one.
Yeah.
And that, when I was in St. Louis, we go to the first day of camp, and I'm like, which one's Bradford? I couldn't tell. I was like, oh, this isn't going to go well. Right.
Speaking of that, I saw this today, and I thought about the Colts. So now, and this makes sense. I always said when the Colts were looking for a quarterback, and I think it was probably Rivers when they got, I said, you know what? You go get Tom Brady because Tom Brady elevates everybody in the room. Right. Everybody has to sit up a little straighter. Everybody knows that he's a perfectionist and he's running a deal. So you go get Rivers, and that's fine. It's like Tom Brady light, I suppose. And then, so I see today that all of these guys, Garrett Wilson and a couple other guys are like, look, all of a sudden I'm catching passes from Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah.
This is unbelievable.
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to tell my kids 10 years, 20 years, I played with Aaron Rodgers. The Colts tried to sell us that last year on Matt Ryan.
Yeah.
They tried to sell us. I remember Kenny Moore. Oh, it's just an honor. It's to be here and blah. I'm like, yeah, pull this. It plays Jingle Bells. Come on. And I'm not saying that he's not probably a Hall of Famer. Seems like everybody gets in the Hall of Fame. He went to a Super Bowl, blah, 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 blah. But there is a huge difference. And I think for a young guy, inexperienced, a lot of questions, I think Anthony Richardson, I was thinking about this, will be a guy that guys gravitate to because of his talent, because of his ability. Right. Not his passing, maybe necessarily yet, but his arm. You know what I mean? His running, his what I saw, him doing the pocket. When you're 21 years old and you're, basically a rookie in college and you get thrown on an NFL team, you got to earn respect somehow. And talent always earns the respect of others as long as you're not a jackass. And he's not a jackass. Apparently, Ballard counts.
If he's first interception, if he gets in somebody else's grill, that's big trouble. Mm-hmm. Like in a lineman, if he pulls like he won't. But if you come at Nelson and you're like, hey, what the hell you doing? Block somebody. Yeah. That's your ass. You lose them forever. Yeah. Right? It takes one time.
Yeah,
right?
It doesn't take much. You
show your ass and it's over.
You got to build up some equity before you do that.
Yeah, right.
And equity comes with making plays. Equity is not just saying you're the fourth pick in the draft, wearing your chains or driving your car or having your buddies. That's where guys are, as the great Joby Wright used to say, they're under-eyeing you a little bit. They're looking at you a little. But then ability shows, and if you're humble, when you're done making a play, you can go the other way. If you make a good play and you're like, great block, it doesn't even have to be. Right. It doesn't have to be a showy thing. It's just, hey man, great job, that was great. That builds the equity to then you can get on somebody's ass when they fuck it up.
Right.
And you better be able to accept somebody getting on your ass when you F it up.
I always go back to Jim McMahon with the Colts or with the Bears. I always thought he had a great vibe with his offensive line. He acted like a lineman. He drove like a lineman. He drank like a lineman. He was like one of those guys. And I thought because of that, they had that togetherness that was a little unique. And I wonder if Richardson, given the fact that he's younger, given the fact that culturally he's from a different place than these linemen, I wonder how that's going to vibe. I wonder how you put that together because he needs to do it.
Well, it needs to be real.
Yeah.
That's one of the things that I always watch. I watch, and more in college than in the NFL. Guy throws an interception or they have a bad possession. I always watch how the quarterback comes over to the bench. I always watch it.
Yeah.
And I always watch, is he the rah-rah guy that wants to slap everybody's hands and do it for show? I'm the leader. We made a mistake. Or is he real? And that's why I never liked Nick Foles. I never liked Nick Foles. I would sit behind, we had great seats, season tickets, 6 rows behind the visitors bench, and Nick Foles never talked to anybody, sat down in his own little deal, and it was unbelievable.
Wow.
And he would get up and do the same thing. He would snub whoever tried to come talk to him. But again, it's unfair because I'm behind him, but I can read body language pretty well. Get up, take his hat off, throw a pass, literally not talk to anybody, and walk out onto the field for Jacksonville and do whatever he does. I hated Nick Foles and Jalen Ramsey. But Jalen Ramsey was young. Jalen Ramsey, they had a guy, Calais Campbell.
Yeah.
Frick, is he a stud. Now, I love Calais Campbell because he was not going to let Jalen Ramsey, when the defense was sitting here, he wasn't going to let Jalen Ramsey sit over here. He grabbed his ass one time and literally sat him like,
really?
Sit. And I'm like, that's a dude. And he's still playing. He's like 100. I think he was 100 years old when we had the seats 4 years ago. And he's still just signed a contract.
Yeah.
So it's got to be real. Everything you do as a quarterback, I believe, to get respect, particularly as a young, it's just got to be real. It's got to be work ethic, talent, and real. You do those three things, you can win over a group.
And that's true in almost everything. You know, if you're authentic, people buy it, and people want to, you know, in media, they want to consume it. And like, that's why people watch us, because
of course,
we're just who we are. I can't be anything else. No. You certainly can't be anything else.
But you know, people act like this is a big step for him, and in some ways it is. In some ways it isn't. Talking about Richardson, because it's like this: guy walks onto a baseball field, and he's a pitcher, and you got a Quentin Nelson type catcher, guy who's been there, been an all-star. No nonsense guy, and this dude goes Sid Finch and throws one about 100 miles an hour, you know, to this catcher with a little bit of that on it.
Yeah.
The guy wakes up behind it like, whoa. Yeah. Now you bring me or you out there, and we're pussing it up there at about 88. This, you know, even though it's got great movement or whatever. No, this guy's seen all that shit.
Yeah.
So you see Anthony Richardson out there as an athletic freak, running like crazy, throwing it a mile or 100 miles, throwing it 100 miles an hour. Immediately, those guys on that line are like, whoa.
It's like, yeah, it is. It's,
whoa. Where were you at?
You know, in baseball, too, it can be like a hitter. If you hear...
They hear it.
All you got to do is hear the bat hit the ball, and you're like, oh, geez, who's that guy?
Yes.
You know, as a coach, as a teammate, whatever.
Yes.
And it's fascinating.
I agree. The sound of a wood bat hitting a baseball is different for guys that are special.
Yeah,
It is just, that's a great
I remember watching Game 1 of the '84 NLCS with the Cubs and the Padres.
Bobby Daneer, home run.
They're talking to Ernie Banks, and Ernie's got his back to the field, and they talked to him, and it wasn't. You didn't even see the trajectory of the ball, and you just hear it, and he goes home run, and he looks, and it was. Like, Ernie knows that sound. Yeah. I got goosebumps. It was awesome. I thought, oh, Cubs going to the series. We're going to kick the Tigers' ass. Woo!
It's the only time I was ever almost late. I think I told you this in Indiana basketball practice. It was an afternoon game. It was a beautiful day. We had practice or running or whatever. And Bobby Daneer led off for the Cubs. Hit a home run. They're up 1-0. And by the time I'm like, man, I better get in there. I hustle in. I go to Garl, had a little TV about this big. I'm like, what score? It's 10-0.
Yeah.
I'm like, Cubs are going to the World
Series. Here we go. And then Game 4. Anyway, that was almost 40 years ago.
I refuse to believe
That's incredible.
We had a big party at my apartment in Jackson Heights, and I left it to go across the street to Marty Simmons and Todd Myers, and I watched that Steve Garvey hit a home run that crushed my soul. Hunter Dickinson's going to Kansas.
Yep.
What do you think?
I wonder why a guy would leave Michigan to go to Kansas. Is it cash? Is it an opportunity to win a championship when he thinks that maybe Michigan's roster isn't there for him? I don't know. I don't know what prompts that decision. I would never leave Michigan for Kansas ever in my life.
I would.
You would?
Yeah. Why? He's got his degree. He already got his degree. Again, my son's played at Michigan, Ohio State. Michigan is no different. It's on a bigger scale basketball-wise than Bowling Green. Indiana, nobody's begging students to come.
Oh, okay.
The bigness of basketball is nothing at Michigan. Like, they got the Maze Raids, and they're always recruiting kids, and the older people, which is most Big Ten basketball crowds, show up half the time. He was very verbal about Juwan Howard setting up the offense for his son. Was his name Jet?
Jet.
Yeah, Jet. And he goes to Kansas, where basketball is king.
Right.
You know, it's funny. I talked to Thad Mott a long time ago about this. Like, man, coaching Ohio State's great, right? You got all these players. He goes, yeah, it's great, but man, it'd be nice to coach at a place like Indiana where huge football, but basketball is the king of the whole thing.
Yeah.
And Ohio State was the same way with Andrew. Ohio State was half full. Like, I didn't know that, because when we would go with Coach Knight and play at Ohio State, it was always packed. When we went to go play at Michigan, it was always packed. But that's not the way it is when everybody comes in there.
Right.
So you go to Kansas, they've used big guys. We've seen what they've done with big guys. Bill Self, you got a chance to win national championship. It's all about basketball there. He's got great point guard. And money, I'm sure, factored into it as well.
Why Kansas and not Indiana?
Well, I think Indiana's got a couple guys.
Dickinson isn't worried about that, is he? I mean, throughout his whole career, he's averaging like 18. He's going to put, the kid from Oregon on the bench, I would think.
Yeah, I would think so too. But when you're in your fifth year, like everybody's not as secure as the average fan. Like the average fan is secure, like, oh, he'll kick his ass. The players, like, I had a lot of games where they didn't really go to me in Michigan, and they already recruit. I probably would think that he looks at Woodson like he did Juwan Howard. Here's a guy that's an NBA guy that, he used Trace Jackson Davis, but, what's the difference? And then you look at Self and you're like, well, this is a number one team in the country or going into the season, maybe number two. Duke's got a lot of guys back. And again, uses big guys, great point guard with him.
Yeah.
Bill's always been a high-low guy, and Dickinson has pretty good dudes around him. Like I think he played at DeMatha, which is down the street from Maryland. A lot of people thought he was going to Maryland. But down the street, and a lot of people thought Under Armour was going to foot the bill. Kevin Plank was going to foot the bill. That apparently didn't happen. But I would imagine money. I bet Kansas put a great package together. I would imagine national championship. Indiana, I don't think anybody, even with Dickinson, would think Indiana's going to, at the level next year of Kansas.
And we don't. I don't know this. No. Maybe you do. But there's this kid who's coming this weekend for a visit, who is a Duke commit.
Yeah.
This Mbake guy.
Yeah.
And he's like Kansas, Louisville, St. John's, Indiana. Does Dickinson go into Kansas affect him where he says, well, only one basketball, and here's an 18-point-a-game guy?
100%.
Right?
1,000%. Now, one thing I'm going to say about Indiana, it's pretty good once they get you on campus.
Yeah.
Like, they seem to close the deal with players that come on campus. Woody, I'm sure, does a great job. It seems like he does. So you get him on campus, like with that Ware kid, what did he do? He canceled the visit to Alabama immediately, and everybody then suspected, and it turned out that he was going to go to Indiana.
Maybe it's because he wants to play basketball and not commit felonies. Maybe that's the thing. Maybe that's why he.
Well, one thing they do at Alabama is they do get you off of the felony. But I don't. What do you? I would like to see Indiana get a 6'6" guy that can really go.
Yeah.
Really go. No, everybody wants that.
We talked about that before. I thought that they were going to get smaller and run.
Right.
And they've gotten bigger and maybe even slower.
I don't know, but I know this. Anybody that thinks Trace Jackson Davis played last year slow is wrong.
Yeah, right.
He ran the floor.
Finally.
Yes, finally. He was slow, and he brought the ball up, so that helped their break a little bit. Not all the time. Not like he made plays out of it, but he got the offense going. But,
And he made noises like a leader.
Yeah, he was great with it. Yeah, he was great with it. He was everything you want. Like, I think. He was a little bit like Yogi Ferrell.
That's great 4-year representative. That's why you stay 4 years.
That is.
To me.
Unless somebody's going to
be a better human being.
Unless someone's going to give you stupid money.
Right.
And the stupid money, again, we've talked about this. Again, people may not understand this, but why would a guy leave early like Drew Schifino? Well, because he's going to be a first-round pick, so he's going to get guaranteed money, and his clock starts for the second contract.
Yeah.
And the second contract is the one that we all read about. 4-year, $300 million or whatever the hell it is.
But we're back to where we started. What do I need $200 million for when all I really need, if I got 6, I'm thrilled for the rest of my life.
Yeah, but Kent, you got some cars you got to buy.
Yeah.
You got some homes you got to buy. I mean, hey, look, there ain't nothing wrong with a $20,000 vacation taken out of chump change.
I don't know anybody who's got a second home who isn't constantly sweating it.
Right.
Like they're constantly checking their ring thing, their cameras and whatnot. They've got a thing hooked up to determine, like, to the microbe if there's a leak, like a water leak.
Yes.
More houses, more problems. More money, more problems. More cars, more problems.
Preach.
What do I need all this crap for? I don't get it.
You have no idea how much you're preaching to me. So Lee and I, reason we live on a lake, and I love living here. It's great. But when we got married, we were living in a house that my wife basically designed in Zionsville. So we get married, and Lee's like, look, I want to live, in a house that's ours. And I'm like, cool. It's got to be a lake or a golf course. So then I got a buddy, and I'm very easily, by some of my friends, I'm very easily, oh, you got to buy a lake house. You got to have a place to get away. And I'm like, I like my life. I don't need to get away from nothing. Why do I get away from doing a radio show?
Yeah.
But anyway, so we went and looked. And then I finally looked at it. I go, look, why do we want to buy a house and a lake house? Can we maybe get a house on a lake right here?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then the Ghetto of Geist opened up, and this house came on, and my sister is a great realtor, Roberta Dockich, by the way, the Dockich team, very good. And next thing you know, because I don't need that.
Right.
I don't, like people always say, wouldn't it be great to own a bar? No! I got employees with a bar. I got criminals with a bar.
Yeah.
I got liability with a bar.
Yeah.
I got distributors with a bar. I got people I got to talk to.
I'd much rather be a customer.
Yes!
Yeah.
Yes! There was a point in my life, I like, man, it'd be cool to open it. If this place ever came, maybe we'll look at buying it. And then I actually sat down.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, God. I mean, hey, this is Sally Ann. I can't come in. Me and Susie Rottencrotch went out last night, and we got drunk, and there's two guys laying around, and we don't know who the hell they are, and we just can't come in. And the two guys, we can't come in because me and Joey Bag of Donuts went out last night, and we can't wait. Like, no!
Servers aren't all irresponsible.
No!
But many of them are.
Everybody, look, where is the biggest problem in the work industry right now? Getting workers to show up.
Right.
Period.
When we lived in Walnut Knolls, everybody in D Building, or a lot of people in D Building, worked at the Noble Romans across the street on College. There was going to be a huge party like September 21st. And that was a Saturday. So I went in, I asked off. And Jeff, the manager's like, no, I already got a bunch of people asked off. I was like, oh, all right. So everybody asked off, and nobody showed up. He had no employees show up. Because you get jobs at a pizza place. What? How hard's that? You got to be ambulatory and have eyes that don't go googly. No offense to the Google Eye people.
Yeah, or the pizza workers union.
Yeah. Hey, but nobody showed up. The manager padlocked the door, and he moved home to Cincinnati. They had to restaff from the top down.
Just because D Building was having a party.
It was going to be a rager, so off we went.
See, there's a lesson there. Don't hire college kids from the same apartment complex.
I had 4 jobs in the same week.
What were they?
4 in a week.
What were they?
I worked at a Pizza Hut. I was the opening cook. I did not enjoy that. I sold newspaper subscriptions, Courier Journal subscriptions door to door, which was horrible. I cleaned apartments at Walnut Knolls. I thought with Julie and me tag teaming this thing, we can get efficient. Julie doesn't clean efficiently. Julie cleans like she's preparing it for royalty. The one apartment we cleaned was the cleanest apartment in the history of Walnut Knolls. Yeah, it took 12 hours.
That's enough.
And the pro rata, the pay was ridiculous for the amount of time we spent. And then I went to work at that Noble Romans. I worked at Nick's for a night. One night I trained.
What happened?
I was like, hey, well, what you got to do, they're fried mushrooms.
No.
You got to put them in batter, and then you got the hot oil, and you're supposed to take it out of the batter and lay it into the hot oil. And the guy said, if you do it right, you burn your fingertips every time. I said, oh, goodbye.
Yeah.
I'm not burning my fingertips so somebody can have a perfect fried mushroom.
No.
Done.
No.
Yeah, that's no good. So lots of jobs in Bloomington. Anyway.
Last thing, I'm continuing my boycott of Anheuser-Busch, and Danny D's Summer of Fun is going to be all local. So I am asking anybody.
You're not traveling.
Huh?
You're not traveling? You're staying in town the whole summer?
No, I'm drinking local.
Okay.
Yeah, like Moondrops Distillery is my official spirits, bourbon, vodka.
Are they the good people out there in Fortville?
Yeah, in Fortville. Yeah, 738 West Broadway. So I'm doing that, but I need a beer, and I know Sun King is good beer. That's great. So I've got 2 places, Sun King and Upland, but I want all local for Danny D's Summer of Fun.
Got to think about Taxman also.
Taxman, I heard.
There's one up in northern Indiana, right? Bozak was huge.
Is it Three Floyds?
Yeah, that's the people.
I think they're shut down, but I could be.
Oh.
Dan, you want anything from Scottsburg? Absolutely. I took a dump in Scottsburg. I did. True story. The Ponderosa. I did.
Jeez, oh, Pete.
Hi, Dana. I seriously did on the way home from Nashville. I'm like, I gotta go. How ironic would it be? There's a Ponderosa. Last one standing. But I'm serious. I am drinking local. Like I'm looking over there, and I got St. Elmo's. I've got what's that? Yeah. There's a really good. I don't know. But anyway, Moondrops is my place, and I'm only drinking local all summer long.
Good for you.
Yeah, I've decided. I'm tired. I've had enough.
You like the Moondrops business? I like that guy, so I was going to go back there and buy stuff.
I love it.
Do they open up? Do they serve things? Can you go there and drink at the bar?
Yeah, on Thursdays. 4 to 9, Fridays 3 to 11, Saturday 3 to 11, and they got live music, and they have a little stage where we were sitting kind of in that corner, and it's really good.
Where'd you go?
You tell me. I'm home this weekend.
Let's go. I'm home this weekend.
All right, text me, and whenever you're ready to go.
There you go.
I'm in.
And you can join us.
We will put it out on the Two Big Brains website when we will be there, and you can join us over at Moondrops. It'd be a good time. We're a good time. We are a good time.
That's what we do.
Yeah.
Hey, listen. If you could make money being a good time,
Hey, 119 of you need to go subscribe right now. Just go subscribe.
Yeah, what are you doing?
Yeah. And by the way, if you're at Wolfie's, do yourself a favor. Kent's usually there Friday afternoons. Mm-hmm. I watched a show called Beef last night. And Beef is a pretty good show. And the robbers all wore Dick Cheney masks. So get yourself a Dick Cheney mask, go to Wolfie's, sit there, and let Kent write about you. Hey, because Kent always finds somebody that looks like somebody.
I keep running into Leslie Nielsen, and he looks at me, and I think, oh, he knows.
No.
Yeah, no, I don't think so.
If I don't leave this chair, I'm going to go potty all over this stage. I'm leaving you right now. Thank you. It's been a great hour. Thanks.